dealt with reported speech taking declarative sentences. We have learnt about the various changes which were required to change declarative sentences from direct speech to indirect speech. In this video, we shall be studying about reported speech taking interrogatives. So let's get started. Before going deeper into the rules, let us first know what is an interrogative sentence. Interrogative sentences are those sentences which normally ask us a question. They end with a question mark. Now there are two kinds of interrogative sentences we normally come across. They are, first is a direct question. These questions begin with a question word. Who, what, when, why, where, how. These are question words or what we call as interrogative words. So, like, who is your friend? What is the time now? When will you come back? Why are you laughing? Where do you live? So these are direct questions. They begin with a WH question, or we call them as WH questions. Now there are other kinds of questions whose answer is normally in yes or no. They begin with a helping verb. Is, am, are, was, were, do, did. Do I need to watch this movie? Am I correct? Are you coming to the party? So these are questions whose answer is in yes or no, right? So to change them into the reported speech, we need to follow certain rules. But before we get to know about the rules for interrogative sentences, let's get to know what were the rules for declarative sentences. So for declarative sentences, we have undergone certain rules, and we had gone for some changes wherein we change sentences from direct speech to indirect speech. First is subject and identification of the subject and the object. Subject and the object of the reporting verb. The next is identifying the reporting verb, changing the reporting verb. Third step was the change of the personal pronoun. The change of the personal pronoun that is used in the reported speech. And the last step was the change of the tenses. The change of the tenses. So these are the various steps that we had followed while we changed sentences from direct to indirect speech when the sentences were in declarative sentences. So going ahead, let's just recapitulate. In case of declarative sentences, how do we change the reporting verbs? Reporting verb said to changes to told. Reporting verb said changes to said that. Say to changes to tell, and says to changes to tells. So to sum up the steps, we can see that there are 6 steps which we have to follow while we change sentences from direct to indirect speech, taking declarative sentences. Identification of subject and object, change of the reporting verb, replacement of the quotation marks with a connected that, change of the personal pronoun, change of the tenses, and updating the time-specific words. The words denoting nearness change into words denoting distance. But in case of interrogatives, that means in question kind of sentences, there are certain changes that we have to keep in mind while we change sentences from the direct speech to indirect speech. Now, as you can see here, few of the steps remain same. So in case of interrogatives as well, you need to identify the subject and object first. We need to change the reporting verb, and we need to replace that. So there are 2 ways in which we can replace that. When the question in direct speech is a yes or no kind of a sentence, then it changes into a conditional. When the question in the direct speech is a direct question, that means a WH question, then we replace that with a question word which is used in the report in the direct speech, right? And there is the change of the pronoun using the formula SON, which we have already seen in the previous video. There is change of tenses if the reporting verb is in past tense. And there is update of time specific or place specific words. So these are adverbials. There is an additional step. So here in case of interrogatives, there is an additional step that we have to keep in mind. We have to convert the question into a statement. We have to convert the question into a statement and replace the punctuation mark, which is a question mark, by a full stop or what we call as a period. So these are the various steps that you have to follow while you change a question from direct speech to indirect speech. Let's understand it much better with more clarity. Now first we need to identify the subject and object, and next we need to change the reporting verb. In case of interrogatives, reporting verb said or said to changes to asked. Like in declarative sentences, we had changed it into told, but here we change it into asked. Reporting verb says or says to changes to asks, and reporting verb say or say to changes to ask. So these are the change in the reporting verb. These are the change in the reporting verb. Now, how do the pronouns change? The same formula that we have used earlier in case of declarative sentences, the SON formula. So which says that if the reported speech is in first person, it changes. The personal pronoun changes according to the subject of the reporting verb. If the sentence is in second person in the reported speech, then it changes according to the object of the reporting verb. If the sentence is in third person, there is no change. So this is the formula which we have already used in case of declarative sentences. The same thing is used here in case of interrogatives as well. Moving on, there are update of the time specific words or the place specific words, time or place, right? So these are called adverbials. They undergo a change while we change sentences from direct speech to indirect speech. Here changes to there. Tomorrow changes to the next day. Today changes to that day. Yesterday changes to previous day. This changes to that. Now changes to then. Tonight changes to that night. These changes to those. So to sum up, words denoting nearness changes to words denoting distance. Right? So the next step is the change of the tense. If the reporting verb is in past tense, like said or said to, then we need to change the tense of the reported speech, right? Wherein we go one step back. While we change the tense, we go one step back. Simple present changes to simple past. Present continuous changes to past continuous. Present perfect changes to past perfect. Present perfect continuous changes to past perfect continuous. So each of these tenses we need to understand, we need to remember the verb forms, right? We need to remember the verb forms. So we need to have a good grip over the tenses to understand this change of tenses. Simple present changes to simple past. So verb form, the V1 form of verb changes to V2 form. Present continuous changes to past continuous. Is, am, are, ing plus ing verbs changes to was or were plus ing. that is past continuous. We all know about the verb forms. Present perfect changes to past perfect. Has or have plus V3 form changes to had plus V3. Present perfect continuous changes to past perfect continuous. So, present perfect continuous had, been, have, been plus ing changes to had plus been plus ing. Right? So, present perfect continuous changes to past perfect continuous. Yes. Has or have. Been ing changes to had been ing. What about the cases of the sentences when the case is a future tense? The sentence is in future tense. So will or shall, which take will or shall, which are modals, change into would or should. And can changes to could, may changes to might. Right? The same rule holds good even for interrogatives. Let's understand it with few examples. So this is an example, as you can see here. He said to me, "What are you cooking now?" Now, as we have already studied that there are 7 steps to change sentences from direct speech to indirect speech. He said to me, "What are you cooking now?" So the step 1. Let's go for the step 1. First is chain identification of the subject and the object. As you can see here, subject is he and object is me. Reporting verb is said to. Change of the reporting verb. Said to changes to asked, since this is an interrogative. Right? Since this is an interrogative. So you can see here. Next step is change of the pronoun. We had applied the SON formula where we have known that if the sentence in the reported part is in second person, it changes according to the object. Right? So you is a second person. It changes according to the object. The object is me. So for me, we'll be using the pronoun I. So you changes to I. Change of the tense. As we can see here that the reporting verb is in past tense, said to. So the change of the tense has to happen. What are you cooking now? It is in present continuous tense. Are plus ing, which is present continuous tense. Right? We have to change it into past continuous. So what is the form of verb? It will be was plus ing. So are cooking changes to was cooking. Change of the time word. So which is the time word here? Time word is now. So now changes to then. Right? So final what we get? We get what was I cooking them. Taking all the changes, we get this sentence, what was I cooking then? But we have to, when we are reporting it in the indirect speech, then we have to write it as a statement. That was the final change that we had to make. So since we have to write it as a statement, it needs to, the subject comes first and the verb goes, it's followed by the verb. So he asked me what I was cooking, right? What I was cooking. And the question mark is replaced by a period or full stop. So this is the final sentence. He asked me what I was cooking then. What I was cooking then, right? So this is the final way how you are going to change. This is a direct question. What is a direct question word, which is an interrogative WH question? We change it into a statement in the reported speech. So it changes to he asked me what I was cooking then. So this is a, as you can see here, he said to her, "Will you listen to such a coach? Will you listen to such a coach?" Now it's This is a yes or no question, right? This is a yes or no question. It begins with a helping verb. You can see here it begins with a helping verb will, right? So what are the different changes? First, identification of subject and object. Subject he, object her. Change of the reporting verb, said to changes to asked. Replace the quotation mark with a conditional. We have already studied that if the question is a yes or no question, then it changes into a conditional. And conditionals use if. So you are replacing the quotation marks with a conditional word if or whether. Change of the pronoun. Here you can see that the sentence is in second person. Second, it has got a second person. So it goes according to the object, right? So for her, we use the pronoun she, right? Now change. So you changes to her. Change of the tense since the reporting verb is in past tense. The change of the tense does happen here. So will changes to would. Will changes to would, which is a modal, right? Then change it into a statement. Now we finally change it into a statement. Would she listen to such a coach? Changes to she would listen to such a coach. Just change the place. Just change the place of the subject and the helping verb. Just changes. So first the subject comes and then the verb comes, right? He asked her whether or if she would listen to such a coach. He asked her if he asked her if she would listen to such a coach. Replace the question mark with a full stop. That is the final step. So we have dealt with various examples, taking WH questions, which are direct questions, and taking yes or no questions, which change it to conditionals, right? So here comes another question, another example, children. You can see here. He says to me, do you know how to play Ludo? Now tell me, which kind of a question is this? Yes, of course. This is a yes or no question. The answer is going to be yes or no, right? Since it starts with a helping verb, do. So this is a yes or no question, right? Now first step. So as usual, first step, identification of subject and object. Subject is he, object is me. Change of the reporting verb, right? Change of the reporting verb. Now, since reporting verb is says to, it changes to asks. It changes to asks. Says to changes to asks. Replacement of quotation marks with a conditional if, because this is a yes or no question. He asks me if. Now, change of the pronoun. Pronoun is you. Second person goes according to the subject, according to the SON formula. So object is me, object is me. So for me, we use I. So there is no change in tense. Why? Because the reporting verb is in present tense. It is in present tense. So we have already studied, if the reporting verb is in present tense, we do not change the tense of the sentence in the reported speech. It remains the same. So there is no change of tense. There is no time word, as you can see here. There is no time word, so there is no requirement of change of time words. These two steps are omitted. For the final sentence is, he asks me if I know. No remains as no. No change in the tense. How to play Ludo. how to play Ludo. So that is how you change a sentence taking a yes or no question. You have to change it into a conditional sentence, right? So we've seen so many examples taking various kinds of questions, direct questions and yes or no questions. To sum up all the steps, let's just recapitulate what are the different steps we had followed while we changed sentences from direct speech to interrogatives, direct speech to indirect speech, taking interrogatives. Right? First is identification of subject and object. Next is change of the reporting verb. All the reporting verb changes to either asked or asks or ask. Then we replace the quotation mark. We replace the quotation mark with a conditional if it is a yes or no question and with a direct question word if it is a direct question. Like if there is where, we replace the quotation mark with a WH question, where. If it is how, we use the question word how. We replace the quotation marks and replace it with the question word, WH question. Next is change of pronoun using the SON formula. Then change in the tense if the reporting verb is in past tense. But if the reporting verb is not in the past tense, if it is a present tense or it is in the universal truth, there is no change of tense. There is no change of tense. We update the time-specific words or place-specific words, which we call as adverbials. And we have an additional step in case of interrogatives where we convert the question into a statement. And finally, we replace the question mark with a period or full stop. So these are the various steps that we follow when we change sentences from direct speech to indirect speech, taking interrogatives or question kind of sentences, right? Now, let's just see how much we have learned. Here are a few questions. Here are a few questions in the direct speech. You need to change it into indirect form. You need to change them into indirect form. Kindly put your answers in the comment section and let me know how much you have understood. I'll be happy to help you if in case you are stuck up somewhere. Do let me know if you want more clarity on any of the rules. Thank you for joining the session. Thank you. Keep learning.